Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 262, DeRitter vs. Allen, also known as UFC Vancouver. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com, and with me, as usual, is Keith Qileng, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, how you doing today?
Doing well, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. We definitely missed you on the UFC Rio recap last night. Dane held down the fort admirably, but you know, anytime someone needs to step in for one of us, it never hits quite exactly the same, you know? But nonetheless, I assume you caught the card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
let's recap it for the next 2 hours.
All right.
So I'll tell you my favorite moment. I'll give you real quick. I tell you my favorite moment is when who was it? I think it might have been a big heavyweight. It might have been Mario Pinto, or it might have been who's the Brazilian guy who won the big heavyweight? He moved up from light heavyweight.
Vitor Petrino.
Yeah, Petrino. I don't remember if it was. No, I think it was Mario Pinto, and Bismi has a translator for him, but he says it in Portuguese. And then he's like, English now? And the guy's like, brother, I don't speak English. That was my favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah, that would definitely be Petrino, because Pinto's English is perfect. Yeah.
No. And then Pinto, he says, I don't speak English. Then he translates, and then later on, he starts speaking English. I'm telling you, he says that. It was Pinto.
Oh, yeah. That's really weird then, because Pinto, he's one of those guys like Modestas Bukauskas, where he's been training in England so long that when he speaks English, he just sounds like a British guy. Like, he doesn't even have like, that's so funny. Was he just pretending he didn't speak English because he was hoping they'd think he was Brazilian? Like
when I was in the Army, we had to watch this base. Long story short, sometimes you had like border duty, and you're in Iraq, it's 110 degrees. So you're supposed to wear like a flak jacket and everything, but I would take it off. And then I'm like, I can keep it off until the one time someone shows up. I can just play like dumb, like, because we take it off inside. Mm-hmm. So like, well, I'm inside. So I thought I could take it off, but I knew we couldn't. But I'm going to play dumb until I finally, someone comes along and tells me I can't. That's what it does.
That is amazing. This card, the UFC is still on its incredible kind of globe hopping jaunt over this 5 or 6 week period where they're hitting 5 different countries, 4 different continents in 5 weeks. There are fight night cards. There are pay-per-views. Obviously, when the UFC is on the road for that many weeks in a row, it places certain amounts of stress on the talent pool as they try to get relevant fights on these cards. They try to get suitable matchups. They try to provide some sort of appeal for the local fans. What's your overall thought on this card? Like, how good do you feel about it? What's letter grade on paper?
Yeah, like a couple weeks ago, I said that they've been pumping out these international cards one after another, and it seems like they just like, okay, we're just going to swarm the card with as much local people. And when I mean local, I mean like anybody who lives in that country. Not, for example, they have a whole bunch of Canadians in this card. They're not having everyone from, British Columbia. They'll have someone from Ontario and someone from, I don't know, New Brunswick and one of those other pointless provinces out there that don't really matter. But so I've kind of lowered the standards of the house shows. I think this one, compared to the other international ones that we've been getting, the main event took a hit. If Hernandez was still on the main event, this would be close to an A for me because of how excited I'd be for the main event. I'm gonna go like B-. Like there's 3 or 4 fights that I like that I think are really high quality. There's a couple prospects I'm looking into. I think overall it's a pretty good card.
I think it's fairly rare that I give a card a lower grade on paper than you do ahead of the card, but this one I'm kind of hard on. Like I'd give it a C+. Like
I wouldn't B-. You went C+.
Hey,
I'm like an 80. You're a 79.
Yeah, pretty much. They did a good job salvaging as good a main event out of it as they could. Obviously, it's not DeRitter versus Hernandez, but DeRitter versus Allen is not a bad substitute. It's kind of like when Mateusz Gamrot stepped in last weekend at UFC Rio. It's like, well, that's arguably a better matchup or a more interesting matchup than what we had in the first place. I'm not saying that's the case here, but again, it's the UFC salvaging the best they can out of the realities of their 42 card a year schedule. But south of that main event, there are a lot of fighters in this card that are below 500 in the UFC that they either signed just to put on this card or kept just because they knew this card was coming. But I do agree, there are some prospects here that I'm very interested to see. And for what it's worth, this card is full of fighters that, gun to my head a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have said, these people are not going to still be in the UFC by October 2025, like let alone in prime real estate on, an international fight night card. Like, I would not have guessed that Reinier de Ridder would be in the UFC middleweight title picture at this time in 2025.
No,
I would.
No, we thought this would be Bo Nickel.
Okay. Exactly. And you couldn't have told me that Ayman Zahabi you could have told me that Ayman Zahabi would be third from the top on a Canadian card, but you wouldn't have been able to convince me that he actually deserved it.
Yeah.
But instead, he's actually fighting incredibly well recently. So there is some good stuff on here. Outside of the main event and outside of Manon Fior versus Jasmine Jasudavicius, what's the fight on this card that you want to put in bubble wrap and make sure it makes it to the cage on Saturday?
All right. I want to. Well, I mean, like Matt Frevola is always fun. So, like that's an action fight. Drew Dober is always fun, so that's obviously an action fight. But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciations, but I'm gonna go with Bekoev versus UFC newcomer Belgaroui. How do I say his name?
Belgaroui. Yousri Belgaroui. Yeah, and Azamat Bekoev.
Yeah, like your wrestler versus striker, really decorated striker, pretty solid wrestler, kind of a traditional sense. But we've seen how these extremely decorated kickboxers, I know obviously not all of them have succeeded, but two of them that he has fought has succeeded to the highest level. I don't think he'll be the third to that level, but it is intriguing to see how he'll do. So that's probably the fight I'm looking at.
That's this week's version of CMB and Mosquita last weekend. Hey, let's throw them in the mix and see what happens. So I'm with you on that. Any other general thoughts on this undercard, or I'm on this card before we go into the undercard?
Well, the thing I'm most excited to break down is a guy that we haven't broken down in a really long time, Kevin Holland. Yeah, it's got to be like 2 weeks since we've had to break him down.
At this point, Kevin Holland, he's up to 30 fights in the UFC. I feel as though I'm finally starting to get dialed in on who he is as a fighter. I don't have to just read off my notes quite as much. I feel like I can just kind of come up with talking about Kevin Holland's game off the top of my head. So I'm with you.
He feels like when you watch the ESPN Plus cards and then they go to the commercial, and it's the same commercial over and over and over again. Kevin
Affleck Holland.
There you go.
Kevin Burger King Holland.
Yeah. Over and over
again. That's so perfect. Oh my goodness. All right. And unless we've got anything else, let's jump on into these prelims.
All right, let's do it.
First up at UFC Vancouver is a women's bantamweight matchup between Canadian newcomer Melissa Croden and Tainara Lisboa. Croden, the 34-year-old Alberta native, is 6-2 overall. This will be her UFC debut, as I mentioned. She fought most recently in LFA. In fact, just a hair under a year ago, knocking out Ashley Dean early in the second round. She will step in here against Lisboa, 34-year-old Brazilian, 7-3 overall, 1-2 in the UFC. She Joined the UFC about 2 years ago, quickly won her first 2 fights in the promotion, then disappeared until this May when she came back and got tapped out late in the second round by Luana Santos. So Lisboa looking to bounce back from her first UFC loss, Croden looking for her first UFC win. Lisboa is slightly favored. She's minus 125, Croden plus 105 as your underdog. Keith, on the one hand, I'm asking you about the upside of a couple of women in their 30s who have 8 and 10 professional fights apiece. On the other hand, it's women's bantamweight. What's your level of interest in terms of this mattering for the division? And then tell me what you think about the fighters.
Yeah, it's funny because that's exactly how it goes. When I watch these girls fight, as far as, what do I see? Do I see, extremely high talented fighter? No. Do I see someone who could be ranked top 50 in that division? Well, there's like 17 girls in the division. So yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll start with, Lisboa, who's, she's been in the UFC before. She's a fairly well-rounded fighter in this. She's a pretty good striker. Does a lot of L step in to cut angles. I say pretty fast hands. She set up her shots well with feints, a nice crisp jab. She attacks with combinations, nice 1-2 down the pike. Has some power. Defensively, she doesn't move her head much. I don't like that. She'll throw some lazy calf kicks, which leaves her open to be countered. She will close the distance or work on the clinch. I mean, she threw Jessica Rose Clark in the clinch. Isn't a bad grappler. Has some nice back takes. She did sub Jessica Rose Clark. Good takedown defense. If taken down, she does struggle to get back to her feet. Croden, I mean, she's 34, making her UFC debut, so you don't like that. But she's very big for the weight class. She's long and lengthy, but still like strong. She's not scrawny. Like she's kind of built like Jasmine Jasudavicius, where she's long and lengthy, but she's like she could outmuscle a lot of girls. She's a technical fighter on the feet. Likes to move like and be in all the way in and all the way out. Long strikes from distance. Not the fastest hands, but she does have some pop in it. Good high kick. She likes the clinch. She really works really well. Grinds on her opponents inside the clinch. Likes knees from the plum clinch. She will wrestle. She likes like body locks and trips. Really being ground and pound. It's really hard. I'm not very high on either girl. It's really hard to know what you have with Croden because she's faced really low level talent, but she's looked pretty good in those matchups. Lisboa is definitely the more technical, the better athlete, but she's giving up size. Not that she's small, but Croden's really big. I'm gonna go with an upset right out the gate. Croden, I like her plum clinch. She gets in there, she really batters the body with the plum clinch. I think it's very close. I have no confidence. I could don't follow this as a bet because when you break it down stylistically, you think Lisboa, but I kept watching one fight where she had the plum clinch and it was mean. I'll say that's gonna be the difference. I'm gonna say the UFC newcomer in her home country gets a split decision.
Yeah, I see a lot of the same things you do about Croden. Definitely a big framed woman. And you mentioned that it's tough to get a bead on exactly where she is because she's fought low level competition. But the one decent fighter she's fought, and the one fighter that she's fought that's in the UFC right now, is of course Jacqueline Cavalcanti. And that's nice for us because they fought for 5 rounds. It was in LFA, so there's high quality video out there of it. And against Cavalcanti, she was matched up against someone who is similarly very large and wanted the same basic kind of fight and was just a little quicker and more athletic and sharper than her. And the result was a competitive decision where Cavalcanti clearly came out ahead. We haven't seen Croden in a year, but she appears to be basically that same fighter. So I can see the hard ceiling on her upside in the division, but as far as here, I'm with you. The line is close, and it makes sense why, because again, Croden is mildly promising. She's been gone for a year, and I feel as though we know what we have in Lisboa. I think this is probably going to be a real close fight. But both women are going to want the same, again, kind of like the Cavalcanti fight. Both women are going to want the same basic kind of fight. This one has split decision written all over it. But you know what? If we're going to have a fight where all 3 rounds are individually hard to score and neither woman is really able to hurt the other enough to just make, okay, round 1 was clearly for fighter A, round 3 was clearly for fighter B, this is the swing round. They all might be swing rounds. And if they're all going to be close rounds, give me the native Canadian in the curtain jerker. It's unanimous. And like you, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this one, but let's go with Croden in the mild upset and getting the night started off right for the Vancouver crowd. Up next on the UFC Vancouver prelims is a middleweight matchup between Azamat Bekoev and Yousri Belgaroui. Bekoev, the 29-year-old Russian, is 20-3 overall. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He fought most recently back in May at UFC on ESPN Sandhagen versus Figueiredo, where he knocked out Ryan Loder in the second round. He will look to make it 3 wins in a row to start his UFC run against the fairly hyped debuting fighter in Belgaroui. 33-year-old Tunisian is 8-3 overall. This will be his UFC debut. He fought on the Contender Series on my birthday, September 10th of last year, knocking out Taiga Iwasaki in the third round. I'm kind of burying the lead here. Keith alluded to it during the introduction, but the reason we are interested in Yousri Belgaroui is that he is a former and longtime kickboxing contender. He was a top middleweight talent in Glory, and he hit a ceiling against a couple of familiar names in Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. He went 0-2 against both of them, but outside of that, he was pretty dominant. Having said that, the line is not close. Bekoev is minus 280, Belgaroui plus 230. I am interested to see how Belgaroui does at the UFC level in MMA. But having said that, and again, kind of like you alluded to off the top, he's not Israel Adesanya. He's not Alex Pereira. He's not those guys in kickboxing. Like we learned that through direct experience, but he doesn't look to be that in MMA necessarily either. He looks to be much more like what you would expect of a 6'5" middleweight kickboxer who only really crossed over seriously to MMA in his 30s. Like, understand that Alex Pereira coming over and only really starting to fight seriously in MMA in his early 30s and accomplishing as much as he has is an all-time freakish occurrence. Most of them turn out more like, well, Yousri Belgaroui. The problem here is going to be when you are 6'5", your legs go up to your collarbones and you kick a lot. Takedown defense is always going to be a problem. Like that's the basic thing that has plagued strikers in MMA since roughly November of 1993. And because of that, I see why this matchup with Bekoev is as lopsided as it is on the books. Because yes, Bekoev is a physically just burly, powerful, just kind of classic Russian wrestler. But while his striking is it's unrefined. He throws a pretty basic repertoire of strikes. He doesn't throw like the cleanest combinations. He doesn't throw the straightest punches, but there is a lot of mustard on his punches. He has just a ton of natural power in the very classic wrestle boxer mold. So I just feel as though Belgaroui is going to be he's going to be kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, because he's going to need to be concerned about the takedowns, but then you just have the very classic, I think he's about to change levels, my hands go down, and all of a sudden I am eating an overhand right, and the kickboxer just got clocked by a wrestler. We've seen it a million times, even at the highest levels. The classic, of course, is Randleman versus Crow Cop, but I kind of see that happening here. And when Bekoev is a 3-1 favorite, it's not exactly stepping out on a limb to say, I think Bekoev probably wins, but give me Bekoev to do that kind of thing. I could see Belgaroui coming out, trying to stay on the outside, just manage the distance. You know, he can't take me down if he's 6 feet away from my hips. And I could just see him really starting to bite on Bekoev's feints, thinking the takedown's coming. Maybe he manages to successfully defend a takedown early, but I think Belgaroui's probably going to get caught by something on the feet and starched. Give me Bekoev. I'm going to say it happens in the second round. Like maybe Belgaroui gets, give me like a Krokop versus Gonzaga type thing where Bekoev takes down Belgaroui in the first round. Belgaroui survives, but definitely loses that round and just gets clocked with something in the second. Bekoev by second round knockout.
Yeah, they didn't give Belgaroui an easy fight in his UFC debut. That's for damn sure.
No favors.
No, I mean, Bekoev is really good. He's a well-rounded fighter. He marches down his opponents. I agree with you. A lot of said about his striking. He's not a bad striker at all. He throws a lot of power shots, but he's accurate. He's got a great left hook. He's got incredible punching power. You mentioned, obviously, he's Russian, so he can wrestle. He's got some good, good takedowns. Also has some good takedown defense on top. He's got a very good control. I mean, when we saw what he did against Zach Reese with mean ground and pound. I mean, knocked him dead. He's a very big submission artist. Belgaroui, he's 33 years old, so he's pretty late in the game making his UFC debut. But he's huge for the weight class. It's something about those strikers out there that, and he trains with Alex Bejeda, so he's 6'5", extremely experienced kickboxer. You mentioned fighting Alex and fighting Adesanya, and he's a very good striker. Not the best output though. I'd like to see that jump, but a long jab, nice straight right. He loves his step back right hand counter. He has big power. He'll toss out a Superman punch, nice step in knees. He likes flying knees, hard calf kicks. Defensively, he will back straight up. Not an offensive wrestler at all, a weak defensive wrestler. But to his credit, the times I've seen him get taken down, he has worked back to his feet. Kind of similar to Alex Pereira, where he just kind of pushes himself up just by being really big. I really want to pick Belgaroui because I think his striking is legit. However, I have to see him stop takedowns, and I agree what you said. Bekoev has that power; he can connect, especially if he connects clean. If he's faking wrestling or get him tired with the wrestling. But I expect Bekoev just to take him down and beat him up on the ground. Give me Bekoev by decision.
Strawweights take the cage next at UFC Fight Night 262 as Stephanie Luciano squares off against Ravena Oliveira. Luciano, the 25-year-old Brazilian, is 6-2-1 overall. She is 1-1 since joining the UFC out of season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. She made it to the UFC after a draw with Talita Alencar on the Contender Series. They rematched in their UFC debut. She actually beat Alencar, then came up against Sam Hughes at UFC Fight Night Vittori versus Dolidze back in March. Lost by split decision. That is her first loss in the UFC. It snapped a 4-fight unbeaten streak for her. So she's looking to get back in the win column here against Oliveira. 28-year-old, also from Brazil, is 7-2-1 overall. She's 0-1 in the UFC. She made her debut just a little over 2 years ago, dropping a unanimous decision to Tainara Lisboa. So she's been on the shelf ever since. She steps back into the cage here, still looking for her first UFC win. She is not favored to get it, to say the least, as Luciano is minus 300, Oliveira plus 250. Keith, by my count, Kevin Holland has fought 17 times since the last time we saw Ravena Oliveira. Remind us what kind of fighter she is and how you think this fight goes.
Yeah, I had to look this one up. I didn't remember. I forgot she fought in the UFC. I was like, I don't remember this woman at all. I mean, she
like in between the last time Oliveira fought, Kevin Holland has as many fights as Neil Magny and has stopped as many crimes as Keith Schillen. Like that's
at least
and committed and probably committed a few.
As he claims he has. The guy's
claims.
The guy's taking down a whole he's taking out a whole Mexican cartel this weekend in Canada or something. He's taking on the entire Canadian mob. I don't know. Does Canada have a mob? Anyways, Oliveira. I mean, she from we last seen her, she's a good athlete. She comes out the gate. She's on the gas. She's a brawler. She throws big winging punches. She is better when she cleans it up and throws 1-2s, straight. She's not bad there. She does have some power. She has 6 TKOs, a big kicking game, though she will throw some naked leg kicks. Her defense is bad, though. She pulls the head straight back. She will close the distance and grind in the clinch. And she'll look for some like body lock takedowns. But the problem is she's not that good at it. If she does get the fight to the ground, I like her ground and pound, but she's a bad grappler overall. I mean, she's got out grappled by a Muay Thai striker. So Luciano, the thing that stands out to Luciano, she's only 25, so I like that. She's a distant striker. She's got some fast hands, accurate, throws straight shots down the pike, attacks with combinations, good variety in her striking. I like how much she attacks the body. I like her teep kicks. Not much of an offensive wrestler, and her takedown defense, I'm not really sure about. So it's kind of inconsistent. So I think the line is way off. And that more has to do with I'm not very high on either. I am going to take the massive favorite. I don't see why she's such a favorite.
Can I interject something that I really should have thrown in off the top? I skipped a line in my notes. It's worth noting that Oliveira has been away for 2 years. She's also moving down to strawweight after having been a flyweight for most of her career and an occasional bantamweight. Like her fight 2 years ago against Lisboa was at 135 pounds. Most of her fights in Brazil were at 125. And here she's gone for 2 years and coming in at 115. So that might be some of the kind of doubt or wait and see that might be driving some of this line.
Yeah. And yeah, that's true. But the thing is, she's also 28. So it's not like she was gone for 2 years and she's 38. So she's kind of entered her prime. Again, I don't see why Luciano is such a big favorite. I do think she's more technical fighter. I think she's the faster fighter. I haven't seen much of her ground game, but I think it has to be better than Oliveira's unless she drastically improved over the last 2 years. So I will take Luciano by decision, but probably even more shocking than this fight, Luciano being that big of a favorite, is why is 2 Brazilian fighters fighting in Canada when there was a card a week ago in Rio?
That's a very, very fair question to ask. Spoiler out of the way. I'm with you on that. I feel as though I have a lot better handle on what Stephanie Luciano is going to look like in the cage. Yeah, she's a strawweight, and Oliveira again is moving down to strawweight after having spent most of her career all of her career in heavier weight classes than that. But having said that, Luciano is fairly tall and rangy for a strawweight, and she does try to use that to her best advantage. She's pretty quick on her feet, has pretty quick hands, pretty quick kicks, tries to use movement, strike from the outside. I think she understands on some level that she's not a one-hitter kill shot artist and just understands what she needs to do to win rounds. It'll be interesting to see how she does against someone like Oliveira that there's plenty to call into question about what she's going to look like in terms of her build, her physicality. But in terms of her approach, I'm pretty sure she's going to run straight across the cage and start winging haymakers. That's kind of her approach. It'll be interesting to see whether she's able to track down Luciano and actually get hands on her. But I'm with you. For Oliveira to win, she's going to need to corner Luciano against the fence and land some big shots on her. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those things where she just kind of gets out volumed badly and probably just loses all 3 rounds in a pretty straightforward manner. And that's my pick here. Give me Luciano by decision as well, even if I also think that the 3-1 line is kind of crazy. Up next on the UFC Vancouver undercard is a lightweight matchup between Kyle Prepolec and Drew Dober. Prepolec, the 36-year-old Canadian, is 18-9 overall. He is 0-3 across 2 separate stints in the UFC. He went 0-2 about 5 or 6 years back, went and won some fights primarily north of the border, was re-signed for UFC Edmonton back in May, where he got tapped out by Benoit Saint-Denis in the second round. He is coming back here, fourth try, still looking for his first UFC win. Standing in the way of that achievement will be Dober, who could kind of use a win himself. 36-year-old Nebraska native is 27-15 with 1 no contest overall. He is 13-11 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC out of season 18 of The Ultimate Fighter. That's the good news. And he is, of course, a reliable lightweight action hero and frequent bonus magnet, but he is on a 3-fight skid right now, the first 3-fight losing streak of his entire career, spanning the last almost 2 full years. He's already fought once this year. It was back in March at UFC on ESPN, Moreno versus Erceg, where Manuel Torres knocked him out in the first round. Dober, never say never with a fighter who's is kind of low-key popular as Dober is, but there's a good possibility he's fighting for his job here. The good news is he is comfortably favored to keep it, as he is the biggest favorite on the card, minus 500. Prepolec is plus 375 coming back. It says a lot that Drew Dober, despite looking very much like the end is in sight, is a 5-1 favorite against Prepolec. But there are a couple reasons for that. One, Dober is just a much better fighter than Prepolec. And two, the specific style matchup favors him on top of just, the talent and skill differential. Because Prepolec at a regional level is kind of a knockout machine. He's an aggressive come forward striker with good power. And it just hasn't really worked for him at the UFC level. We can tell that Dober is starting to slip, because the thing you could say about Dober up until this latest run is, and this is something that we've said on the show before, he loses badly, but he doesn't have many bad losses. Like you look back, Dober's always been a kind of live by the sword, die by the sword guy, at least when he's fighting someone who wants to strike with him. And so he's gotten knocked out really bad a few times, like going as far back as Brad Riddell and stuff. But it's only recently that, okay, his speed is starting to slip, his durability is really starting to slip, and he just can't take the shots anymore. There's no shame in losing to Moicano, especially Moicano recently, where he's been kind of on a tear. Jean Silva is obviously a hot commodity right now. The jury's still out a little bit on Manuel Torres, and Torres jumped on Dober quickly, hurt him. Dober was unable to recover, and it was over in seconds. That was the first time I saw Drew Dober fight and went, okay, the ride's about to come to an end. Because of that, there is the possibility that Prepolec pulls off the massive upset. Because one thing I'm confident of is he's going to come forward, he's going to get into the phone booth with Dober, and he's going to force the issue. I'm not a big bettor. If you're a regular viewer of the show, you know that neither Keith nor I are. We talk about the betting stuff because we know that's what you're interested in, and we're interested observers. But if I were betting on this, I'd be looking for the prop for this thing is over in 1.5 rounds or less, because I think one of these guys is probably getting knocked out pretty quickly and pretty spectacularly. There's upset potential here. Again, Dober's chin looks to be just about gone. That feels weird to say because his chin is the most notable part of his entire appearance, but it looks to be cracking.
He's like the guy from Family Guy. The guy, the cop in the wheelchair. No, the cop in the wheelchair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's slipping my mind right now, but I know exactly who you're talking about. But Dober is still a harder hitter. He's still a more technical striker, even if he has always had lapses on defense. Offensively, he has all the tools. I just have the feeling one of these guys is going to run into something nasty in the first 4 minutes, and I may not be 5-1 confident that it's going to be Dober getting the knockout, but I'm comfortable enough to say, yeah, give me Dober by first round knockout here.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about Drew Dober in the intro. I mean, he's one of the most action fighters we've had. Southpaw, I mean, he's a good striker. He marches down his foe. He's constantly set up his straight left, and I've talked about this based on his footwork, lining up his punches. He measures his shots really well. He's accurate. His hand speed has declined. That is a little bit of an issue. He draws out his opponent's attacks with feints well. He slips punches and then lands clean, hard counters. The problem is I am worried that he's slowing down, and that's why he's getting tagged. He's getting tagged with shots he didn't get tagged with before. He attacks the body well. I always go back to like the Rafael Alves fight where he beat him up with body shots. He's got super power. I mean, one of the best power strikers in all of the UFC, pound for pound. I mean, he keeps his base underneath him, and now he can sometimes tend to chase the KO sometimes, throwing so hard instead of just flowing. He's a terrible wrestler. He won't go for offensive takedowns. His takedown defense is an all-time like worst. Like, you know, it's really bad. And then you mentioned you talk about his chin. He's taken so much damage over the years. I mean, he was knocked out by Matt Frevola. He was knocked out by Gene Silva. He took big shots in wins against Terrence McKinney, Bobby Green, and then obviously Manuel Torres just knocked him out. And he's been knocked out, I think 4 out of 5. No, he's lost 4 out of 5 fights, but been knocked out in 3 of them. So that's concerning. Prepolec, you know, I rewatched Prepolec today just because the guy's he's fought 3 times in the UFC, and I know there was a gap in there, but you kind of forget about the guy. I mean, the guy's 36 years old. He's well-rounded, but he's the definition of mid at everything. It reminds me of when I did a show way back in the day. A couple times, TJ DeSantis had me on the round table, and I was like, he's a guy. like that's what he's just a guy. Very forgettable. You know, I don't think I think 10 years from now, you mentioned Kyle Prepolec to me, I'm not going to remember him. But he's a southpaw. He's a minus athlete, very awkward on the feet. He moves a lot. He like stays on the outside, then dots in the pocket, and he throws hard. But the problem is his hands are slow. He throws a lot of overhands, loads up a lot. He does have some good power. He will look for takedowns, but he's not very good at it. He has 4 submission wins, but he plays BJJ way too much for my liking. And then he was off his back because he kind of struggles to get up. And then he was quickly subbed by Benoit Saint Denis. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm with you. He might be able to catch Dober. Anybody can out wrestle Dober, so there's always, when you pick Dober, there's always things you have to worry about. But I still think Dober catches him. I think he catches him early. I say he knocks him on the first round. Give me Dober by first round knockout.
Welterweights take the cage next at UFC Vancouver as Danny Barlow faces off against Jourdain Santos. Barlow, the 30-year-old Tennessean, is 9-1 overall. He's 2-1 since joining the UFC out of season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. He won his first 2 fights in the UFC before running into Sam Patterson back in March at UFC Fight Night Kopp versus Almabayev, where he got knocked out late in the first round. So looking to bounce back from his first career defeat, he will need to get past Santos, who is moving down from middleweight in search of better fortunes. 28-year-old Brazilian is 10-2 overall. He joined the UFC out of season 8 of the Contender Series and made his debut back in March at UFC 313, where he dropped a unanimous decision to Osman Diaz, though it should be noted that most observers seem to think that he should have won the fight. But nonetheless, he's here looking to bounce back from that loss, looking for his first UFC win, not favored to get it. Barlow is a comfortable favorite at minus 300. Santos plus 250 coming back. So kind of like I said, the good news is that Jourdain Santos probably should have gotten the nod against Ozzy Diaz. The bad news is that he had a close fight against Ozzy Diaz.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
I mean, not, I'm I know that sounds dismissive and insulting. It's not meant to be, but Osman Diaz is one of the lower level guys to hit the UFC middleweight division in the last couple of years. I think it's great that he got a win in the Octagon, but even if Santos should have won the fight, and even if he probably should have been a 170 pounder in the UFC all along, it just wasn't a great look because he left rounds in doubt against Diaz where everyone else has just sort of slaughtered the guy. I was not super high on Danny Barlow when he got to the UFC. He struck me as the kind of guy that, well, the exact kind of guy that comes out of the Contender Series the last few seasons, where they sign almost everybody who wins, but they definitely sign anybody who gets a quick knockout, even though that's actively bringing people into the UFC who are not really ready for prime time. And Barlow just struck me as that kind of guy. He's the guy that might get a couple of impressive knockouts, but just wasn't going to have the tools to compete long-term in one of the tougher divisions in the UFC. And I was actually starting to come around on him a little bit going into the Patterson fight. And even though he got dusted by Patterson, I'm still higher on him than I was coming out of the Contender Series. He showed at least that he had what it took to get past Qileng and Veretennikov. So that to me tells me, okay, he should settle in as a solid middle of the road UFC welterweight. He is a hard hitter who I think still doesn't set up his power shots well enough. He's a guy that still only has 10 career fights. And if you look at his regional footage, the perfect punch tended to come for him at some point without him really having to set them up too well. He's going to have, he's going to have to learn if he wants to knock people out in the UFC. I think he's going to get one here though. Ozzy Diaz was ringing Santos up, and Barlow's hands are so much faster and he hits so much harder. I am mildly interested to see how Santos looks physically and how he interacts physically at 170, because he wasn't a big middleweight, but he wasn't ridiculously undersized either. He strikes me as a guy who might turn into kind of like a Tim Means type at 170, a guy who just is a bit of a physical bully, even though he's not the hugest guy in the division, and just becomes good at kind of slowing fights down. If Jourdain Santos is still in the UFC a year or two from now, I think that's probably the kind of fighter he turns into. I don't think he's going to be able to do it on Saturday. He's too porous on the feet. Again, just seeing him get his jaw jacked by multiple uppercuts by Ozzy Diaz, Barlow's going to knock him out, and he's going to probably knock him out bad and early. Give me Barlow by first round KO here.
Yeah, I don't think a change in weight class is going to make this guy suddenly that good. Barlow is a guy that I kind of liked. He's a very good athlete. He's southpaw, but he does switch stances. You mentioned he looked great against Josh Quinlan. I think he looked okay against I can't pronounce names. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, you won't need to say Veretennikov for much longer. I don't think. Yeah.
No, that's true. The one thing I don't like about Barlow, and I said this before, is he cruises at times, and I think he's going to lose to somebody that just beats him with output, someone that he's way better than. In fairness, Santos has a lot of output. That's the thing he has going, and he's way better than him. This could be a guy that he could lose, but when he's letting his hands go, he's very fluid in his movement. He's fast, he's accurate, he's got a fantastic left hand. His step back left hand is why he's got the nickname Left Hand to God. The problem is he'll sometimes constantly be looking to land the perfect shot instead of letting his hands go more, and the perfect shot will come. He has big power though when he does connect. He will hang his hands low, which I hate. He'll do some flying knees to the solar plexus, which is fun. He went flying knee a lot against Josh Quinlan. He uses those flying knees to kind of keep his range and tries to time his opponents coming in, which I don't mind. He isn't a bad offensive wrestler. I am worried about his durability though. After that KO loss against Patterson, see how he reacts to that. Santos is a bit plodding moving forward. He's kind of flat-footed, but he's got incredible volume. He likes to get in the pocket and he'll throw down, pretty accurate. He's got some nice snap-on shots. He has this really like weird right hand that he throws, but he throws a lot of, variety in his strikes, likes uppercuts inside, good hooks to the body. He does lack power, and that's because he's mostly throwing arm punches, no kicking game. He does have a fairly strong takedown defense. He will look for takedowns, but his wrestling is ugly. His BJJ grappling, it isn't bad. I mean, he has 4 subs on his record, but I mean, nothing to get too excited about. But he has good cardio. So Barlow's the way more talented fighter. But I can see Santos just making a scrap by having tons of output. But I think he is going to be his style is actually going to help Barlow, because Barlow needs to let his hands go. But when a guy's just constantly throwing, he's going to force you to let your hands go. And I think Barlow is just so much sharper on the feet. And I think that helps him land a big shot. I say Barlow knocks him out in the second round.
Men's flyweights are up next in Vancouver as Bruno Silva squares off against Hyun Park. Silva, the 35-year-old Brazilian, is 14-7-2 with 1 no contest overall. He is 4-4 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC out of Tough Brazil Season 4. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, though in his defense, those 2 losses have come against Manel Kape and Josh Fan. So he might conceivably be the 5th best flyweight on the planet. I'm not saying he is, but I'm just saying, like, excusable losses as they go. He does desperately need to get back into the win column here. If he wants to do so, he's going to have to get past Pac, who is looking to bounce back from his own first career loss. 29-year-old Korean is 10-1 overall, 5-1 since joining the UFC out of the Road to UFC reality series. He won his first 4 fights in the Octagon before running into Tatsuro Taira back in August in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 71, where he got tapped out with a nasty neck crank in the second round. So again, Pac looking to bounce back from his first career loss, looking to prove that he is still a future title contender in this division. He is favored at least to make the first step by beating Silva, as Pac is minus 250, Silva plus 200 as the underdog. Keith, what is your status on the Hyun Park hype train? Are you on? You off? You got 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door?
Yeah, I'd say that 1 foot in and out the door. I give him a pass for the Taira fight. I mean, that was changed. What was it? Was it that week that the opponent got changed, or
yeah.
very, very short change, a massive step up in competition. So I give him a pass for that. Very early, and also it's not like he's like a guy who's been slowly working his way in the UFC, and he might have jumped to 1 rank. It was like the guy just got in the UFC, that he's fit and one of the best guys in the world. He's a big flyweight. He's well rounded. Bit of a pressure striker on the feet. He's got some, I'd say, nice tight boxing, fast hands. Works behind a jab. Has a good straight right. He attacks with combinations. He has some pretty good pop, pretty good power. I like that he targets the body. Go back to the Shannon Ross fight. He finished him with a body punch. He'll throw some kicks, but he throws a lot of naked leg kicks. He void strikes by pulling his head straight back. I don't like that, or he pillars, and nothing I don't really like. He's a solid wrestler, but a weaker defensive wrestling. I'll say he's a good overall grappler. He's got some nice back takes. Half of his wins are by submission, but then on the flip side, he got smoked by Taira on the ground. But again, that's a massive step up in competition. Taira also smokes really good guys on the ground. So Bruno Silva, he's a good athlete. He uses a lot of movement, a lot of footwork, a lot of L step in. He's a solid boxer. He's got some quick hands. He attacks with combinations. He targets the body. He has some power. Go back to like the Tyson Nam. I know it was a while ago, but he crushed Tyson Nam. And that was with a front kick. But so he's got a good kicking game, good calf kicks. He's been hurt in a lot of fights, though. He's been in some wars. He's a good wrestler, some fast entries. He does need to improve his defensive wrestling. Bekoev took him down a bunch in their fight. Even David Dvorak got a takedown a long time ago against him. He has a BJJ black belt, so he's a really solid grappler, some slick back takes. He does have good submission defense. He has slowed down in the past, and I'm worried about his durability. He took a lot of damage in that Josh Van fight, but that obviously is a loss that has aged really well. I think this is a solid fight. This is actually a fight that I could have said that I'm looking forward to. Again, always insert every flyweight fight as an answer. I've flip flopped a little bit on this one. I think you said Park's the favorite.
Yeah, big favorite. He's minus 250.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, I think it should be much closer than that. I definitely see Park having the power advantage. I think he has the cardio advantage. I think he has probably more areas of win. If someone trashes the other one, it's going to be Park trashing Silva. I think Silva might has the speed advantage. I think he actually has the wrestling advantage. I'm really close, but I'm going to go with a big upset. I'm going to go with Silva. I'm going to say Silva. He's going to be too fast, and he might sneak in the takedown in two. I'm going to say Silva by split decision.
Man, I am really tempted to go with you on that one. I agree that this one feels like it should be closer than it is on the betting lines. Having said that, there's always the possibility. At this point, Bruno Silva is, I think, 35 years old. He's coming up on 30 career fights. He's at the stage where a lot of flyweights fall off pretty quickly and pretty precipitously, where Park is young, coming off his first career loss, presumably grouchy and motivated. So I'm with you. If one guy just wrecks the other, it's probably Park, just maybe getting a club and sub in like 90 seconds and quickly getting his hype train back on track. But I could see, like, I think I actually see the fight playing out similarly to you, where Park struggles to find those individual moments of explosion. It gets turned into this kind of protracted affair where it's still an exciting fight. You're on your edge of the seat the whole time because something wild might happen, but it ends up going to decision. All three rounds are pretty competitive. I'm going to say Park gets it done. Give me Park by decision, but I'm definitely not minus 250 confident in that. I see the upset potential here as well. Next up at UFC Vancouver, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a men's bantamweight matchup between Charles Jourdain and Davey Grant. Jourdain, the 29-year-old Canadian, is 16-8-1 overall. He is 7-7-1 in the UFC since joining as the former TKO lightweight and featherweight champ. However, he is 1-0 since moving down to bantamweight. On the back of consecutive losses to Sean Woodson and Jean Silva, Jourdain decided to move down a weight class. He made his debut at 135 pounds just a little under a year ago at UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Albazi, where he guillotined Victor Henry in the second round. So the Charles Jourdain bantamweight experiment got off to a successful start. He will look to make the next logical step here and maybe insert himself as a kind of sneaky fringe contender in his new division by getting past one of the division's more reliable gatekeepers in Grant. 39-year-old Englishman is 17-7 overall. He is 8-6 since joining the UFC as a finalist from season 18 of The Ultimate Fighter. He is coming in on a 2-fight win streak dating back a little under a year. Last December, he picked up a unanimous decision over Ramon Tavares, then came back this July at UFC on ABC Whitaker versus DeRitter and won a unanimous decision over Damon Blackshear. So Grant, as he pushes 40, and he in fact turns 40 in 6 or 7 weeks, looking to extend his win streak from 2 to 3. He is not favored to do so. Jourdain is minus 170, Grant plus 140 as your underdog. I'll jump right out and say that I was not particularly in favor of Jourdain's move down in weight. Like, I mean, it's not like he runs his career decisions past me, but as an observer, I wasn't particularly excited for it. I didn't think the things that have plagued him as a UFC featherweight were necessarily going to be fixed by moving down to 135 pounds. But then it's hard for me to argue with the results, because against Victor Henry, a guy who is a very competent striker and a very competent grappler, Jourdain looked fantastic. He still has the kind of speed, explosion, power that he always had at featherweights. he's always been a very dangerous offensive grappler. And I was wrong about one thing, because not all of them, but a few of his losses at featherweight really did seem to be down to him just not having the raw physicality and maybe late fight endurance to deal with just more physically robust ground fighters at 145. Like, I mean, he's always been good to snatch up a quick guillotine, but in terms of like just actual extended grappling exchanges, he would sometimes come out on the worst end of it. And against Henry, he did not have that problem. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it now. The guy's still just 29 years old, which is not bad for someone who, this is his 16th UFC fight. And Grant's the perfect test. Grant is kind of the British equivalent of, our guys. We got a British Darren Elkins type, just not that athletic even when he was 29, let alone 39. Super overachiever, a guy that, considering some of the people that Davey Grant has fought across his UFC run, just the fact that he's never been stopped by strikes is pretty damn impressive. He has fought, like, everyone he's fought has been more athletic than him. Most of them have been bigger. Almost all of them have been harder hitters on a shot-for-shot basis, and he just hangs in there. Because of that, I think he's actually kind of the perfect next test for Jourdain, because at the very least, we know Grant isn't going to give this fight away. And if Jourdain just comes out and pops him with a flying knee in the first 15 seconds of the fight, Grant might not go away. So we're going to get to see what happens when Jourdain actually has to fight a 3-round fight against somebody. I lean Jourdain here. He's literally a full decade younger. I no longer have any real concern that the cut to 135 pounds is going to leave him sapped and unable to function, or have him weirdly guarding his cardio like we see from some fighters who drop in weight. I think Jourdain probably wins a pretty dominant decision here. I think he probably wins all 3 rounds against Grant, but I would not put it past Jourdain to tap Grant out either. I could see late in the fight, Grant being a little dinged up, a little rung up, and, shooting straight into a guillotine or straight into a Darce choke, something like that. That's not my pick. I'm going with Jourdain by decision, but I think there'll be no doubt. I don't do this. This is typically the key thing, but I'm feeling pretty lock of the nighty about this one. Considering what the odds are, I feel pretty damn good about Jourdain beating Grant here.
Wow. What was the odds again?
Minus 170 is Jourdain, plus 140 is Grant.
Ben with the lock of the night against one of our boys.
I'm not happy about it, but I see it coming down the pike.
Yeah, the one big thing that stands out to me in this matchup is just the level of athleticism. And I know some people, I remember one guy that said, "Oh, Keith always talks about athleticism." Yeah, like I have a set way I break guys down. I always start athleticism, then good striking, bad striking, good grappling, bad grappling. It's like I have a set order. Like I figured out how I organize my notes. Yeah, Jourdain is one of the best athletes on the UFC roster, and that's a big thing that stands out. He switches stances a lot, has great output on the feet. His pace against Shane Burgos a couple of years back was insane. Fast hands, somehow looked faster at 135 than he did at 145. He's explosive. He's got a great left hand. He's got good lead uppercuts. He can overthrow his shot sometimes, which leave him to be open to counters. He loves like flying attacks. He's got a big kicking game. He loves ending combos with kicks, especially high kicks, mean body kicks, nice calf kicks. He does get hit a lot. And as long as his opponent is fighting at a high pace, he thinks his opponent won't be able to sustain it, so he doesn't care if he's getting landed on too. He's been hurt a lot. Obviously, Gene Silva knocked him out. He will look for takedowns, and he's inconsistent with how good of a wrestler is. But if he gets the fight, he is a good grappler. He constantly looking kind of like a Charles Oliveira. Weaker Charles Oliveira in a sense, but I mean, in the way he's looking to end this with a submission instantly. He jumps into things. He's got some great guillotines. Caught Kulabao one, caught Lando Venata, caught Ricardo Ramos, in one of the best ones I've ever seen. He got defensively got out all the submission attempts for Shane Burgos. He was subbed by Julian Rosa. He is hard to hold down, and he can go hard for 15 minutes. Davey Grant, like I said, the big gap is the athleticism. He's a poor athlete, but you mentioned it. He's a true overachiever due to his just insane toughness. He presses the action. He doesn't stop despite getting hurt. He's got great output, underrated boxing, fast hands, a lot of variety in striking, throws a lot of power strikes. He can overswing and be open to counters. We could have a little bit of brawl. These both guys swing as much as or as big as they can. He does have good power, though. He knocked out Martin Day. He knocked out Jonathan Martinez. Yeah, he gets hurt a lot, too, though. Like, I go back. Both those guys hurt him. He also got hurt by Adrian Yanez. He throws a lot of kicks, too. He likes the Holly Holm side kick, tons of calf kicks. It's been a while ago, but he destroyed Louis Smoker with just calf kicks. He will throw some stupid spinning attacks. He will get takedowns. He does need to improve his own takedown defense, but to his credit, if you take him down, he is hard to hold down. He's got 9 subs on his record, so he can catch a submission in a scramble. Let me go back to the Sunsao fight. He caught Rafael Sunsao in an inverted triangle in their fight. He has cardio to be pressing the action the entire 15 minutes. This is an incredible fight. You know what? This is another one. Bubble wrap this one. I'm excited. There's no way this fight isn't great. They're both action fighters. I agree with you. Jourdain is a bad stylistic matchup for Grant on paper. But in fairness, everyone really is a bad matchup for Grant on paper. But Grant is a gamer, though. He finds ways to win. Will he be able to match Jourdain's output? When I watched Jourdain fight, I would say no. But Grant has overcome my doubts before. I think he's going to land the hardest shots. I think he's going to get a takedown. You're going with a lock of the night. I'm going with an upset of the night. Give me Grant. I don't, like I said, stylistically, it doesn't seem right, but I'm done doubting Grant. Give me Grant by split decision.
Wow. That's as hard as we ever disagree here. I can't wait for this fight to play out now. Like, definitely bubble wrap this one.
Yeah, but you're lockout. I'm not confident. I went split decision. It would have been really good if I locked it the other way.
Yeah. Next up at UFC Vancouver, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the main card opener is a lightweight matchup between Kyle Nelson and Matt Frevola. Nelson, the 34-year-old Canadian, is 16-6-1 overall. He's 4-5-1 in the UFC. He's coming in off a loss. He fought most recently a little over a year ago at UFC Fight Night Burns versus Brady, where he got knocked out in the first round by Steve Garcia. That snapped a 3-fight win streak for Nelson that saw him kind of elevate himself from a barely hanging on type talent in the featherweight division to a guy that at least seemed to have some staying power. But after getting clocked by Garcia, Nelson has decided to move up to 155 pounds. So he's up in his new division, and he is welcoming back Frevola. 35-year-old New Yorker by way of Tampa. 11-5-1 overall. 5-5-1 since joining the UFC out of the first season of Dana White's Contender Series. Frevola kind of carved out a niche for himself as a fun action fighter in the lightweight division. He has run into hard times recently as he is on a 2-fight losing streak and has sort of become a once-a-year fighter. 2 bad things to happen at the same time. We haven't seen him since last September, where he got knocked out in the 3rd round by Fares Zayam. And then prior to that, he got iced in like 90 seconds by Benoit Saint-Denis, but yeah, make of that what you will. Benoit Saint-Denis is going to do that to some people. At any rate, Frevola very much needs to get back in the win column here. This is one of the closest lines at UFC Vancouver. It's practically a pick'em, but Frevola is just the slightest of favorites right now. He's minus 115, where you can get Nelson at plus 100, even money. This is a tough one to pick just because there are so many unknowns. Neither of these guys have fought in a year. Nelson's moving up a weight division. Frevola has frankly looked a little dicey in his last couple of outings, and then he's had long layoffs in between them. First thing out of the way, Nelson should be fine at 155. He was always a tall, like kind of long framed featherweight. I don't think he's going to be undersized at 155 at all. And considering that his bad losses at 145 really saw him kind of get outspeeded, it was just people getting in and finding his chin. He would have his hands up in the right place, and kind of like late career Sam Alvey, despite having his hands up in the right place, a guy would just come right up, split his guard, and hit him right in the face. That might be less likely to happen at 155, and he's still going to have reach on someone like Frevola. But assuming Frevola's health is good, and assuming that his chin, his durability, his recoverability, at least haven't really degraded any further from when we saw him last against Zayam, I do favor him in this matchup. He's just the slightest favor right now. It might be pick him by the time we see these guys enter the cage, but I have the feeling this is going to turn into a close quarters brawl. That's the kind of fight Frevola loves. Nelson has the kind of fight he wants to fight, but he is. It seems like other people can impose a brawl on him and turn it into a fight where Nelson isn't really using his reach to his best advantage. I think these guys are probably going to be standing, swinging toe to toe in the first round, and there's a chance they both make it to the horn. But I'm guessing we probably see a first round knockout here. It's not exactly a coin flip in my mind, but I lean slightly towards Frevola. So give me Frevola by first round knockout. But my second most likely outcome here would be Nelson by first round knockout. It's hard for me to really trust either of these guys in terms of durability and defensive soundness. So yeah, give me Frevola by first round KO.
Matt Frevola, I mean, obviously it's good to have him back. He's a very exciting fighter. He's a high volume fighter, constantly marching forward, very unconventional style, very herky jerky. He's a brawler, got some nice snap on his shots. He's explosive. He loves to slide in the pocket and land some power shots. Swings a big overhand right. He's constantly swinging for the fences. He has big power. He has knocked out so many people in the past. He doesn't care about getting hit. He's willing to eat a punch to land one of his own. He should start to care about it because he's been knocked out in back-to-back fights. He is a good wrestler. He's got some fast entries. He will shoot without a setup, which is concerning, but he's good at winning scrambles. I like that he looks to land and strike in the scrambles and in the exchanges and all the breaks from the clinch, all stuff like that. He's got tons of heart. I mean, he was hurt in fights against like Jalen Turner and Luis Pena and Lando Venata, and he just kept coming. Now, those fights have been a while now. He does have 3 submission wins. He caught Jalen Turner several times with the guillotine. He has great cardio, but he did gas out against Zayam, so that's a concern. Nelson, I agree. He won't be undersized moving up. He's a wrestle boxer, solid boxing. I always go back to like the Bill Algeo fight. Had great output in that fight. Works behind a crisp jab, nice straight right. He gets in the pocket. He whips a lot of overhands. He has some power. He kept hurting Bill Algeo in their fight. He targets the body a lot. He throws some hard calf kicks, though he will sometimes set him out he won't set him up, I should say. He will close the distance and battle in close quarters, likes to grind kind of chest to chest. He's a good wrestler. He has 4 subs on his record. I am worried about his chin, though. I'll go back to like the Steve Garcia fight. He took a beating in that fight, and his cardio has been inconsistent. I think he'll obviously be better up a weight class. I mean, it's such an unknown right now with Frevola, but I'm still leaning that way. I am worried that he might be done. Like, this could be a pick that he looks terrible, but I know he hits hard. I think he's the better wrestler. I say Frevola lands a big shot. in the second, and he puts Nelson out. Give me Frevola by second round knockout.
Next up at UFC Fight Night 262, Keith Qileng is sleeping on the job here. Those who don't know, Keith's first job is keeping the streets of Pawtucket, Rhode Island safe. His second job is previewing and recapping UFC cards with me. His third job is putting the fights on every UFC card in the proper order from the headliner down to the curtain jerker. And he must have been out the day that they were putting together this main card, and they said, okay, what will be the sixth fight to complete this main card?
Yeah, but you forget, Cody Gibson's a former Ultimate Fighter runner-up. That's huge.
And former runner-up to a Canadian. So if being Canadian is contagious,
there's a lot of power, a lot of star power in that, being the runner-up.
Yeah, they're hoping that he'll get a little of that Brad Katona shine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the main event, Reinier de Ritter versus Brandon Allen, they got to plug in the main event is the main event. But for the rest of it, let's make sure Cody Gibson versus Aori Qileng is on this main card. Bantamweight action. Gibson, 38-year-old Californian, is 21-11 overall. He is 3-6 across two separate stints in the UFC. He is 2-3 this time around since rejoining as the runner-up, one of the finalists from season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter, where, yes, he fought Brad Katona in that final, came up short, allowing Katona to make history as the first ever two-time TUF winner. There's your trivia answer for the day. Gibson has looked pretty good for a guy that quit his job as a high school gym teacher to move to Vegas and kind of go all in on this. He had a nice little run going. He did come up short against Amon Blackshear back in March. That snapped a 2-fight win streak for him. He would like to get back in the win column, creep back towards 500 in the UFC. If he wants to do that, he's going to have to get past Aori Qileng, who is looking to do the exact same thing. 32-year-old from Mongolia is 25-12 with one no contest overall. He is 3-4 with one no contest in the UFC, and he is coming in off a loss. He fought most recently at Noche UFC last year, the big one at Sphere, where he came up short against Raul Rosas Jr. So he's looking to get back in the win column as well, even up his UFC mark at 500. Not favored to do so. Gibson is the slight favorite at -160. Aori Qileng plus 130 as your underdog. Keith, I don't know what I was expecting out of Cody Gibson's second run in the UFC. Well, actually, I do know what I was expecting. I was expecting him not to still be in the UFC right now, and I certainly wasn't expecting him to be arguably fighting as well as he's ever fought in his entire career as a 38-year-old bantamweight. But that's where we are. Tell me who gets it done here and what the fight looks like.
All right. I mean, we've seen Gibson fight a lot. We know what we got with this guy. I mean, he's not a great athlete. He just tries to overwhelm his opponent with his pressure. He's got a really good volume. I mean, we joked about the Brad Katona fight, but I mean that's a perfect fight for him. I mean, I was there live, and he ate so many shots from Brad Katona and just kept coming, throwing straight shots on the pike. He's got underrated power. He can overextend on his strike sometimes, and despite having range on so many of his opponents, he just loves to brawl. He kind of just ducks and dips and throws big counter shots. He doesn't react to strikes well. He almost overreacts, which kind of makes the fight a little more exciting, but it also doesn't look good on the optics. But he's got a big kicking game too. He can wrestle. He's pretty decent at it. I like his top control, and he's got great cardio. He's going to go hard the entire 15 minutes. Aori Qileng, he's also big for the weight class. He's also long and lanky. He's a solid striker, a bit of a Muay Thai striker, stands directly in front of his opponents. He loves to brawl. He is accurate. He has some really good power. I mean, to go back to Johnny Munoz, he hurt him a bunch of times in that fight. Really steps into his shots. He loves unloading uppercuts, hooks inside. Go back to like Jeff Molina hurt him in his fight. He's got a big kicking game, kicks to all areas of the body. He will close the distance by throwing a flying knee. He can wrestle a little bit, He did well the grind against Johnny Munoz in the clinch in their fight. He's a weaker defensive wrestler and struggles to get off the bottom. If he ends up on top, he's got good ground and pound. We saw that guy against Cameron Ellis, and he can go hard for all 15 minutes. So I have flip-flopped on this one. I like Qileng on the feet. I think I like Gibson on the ground. I say Gibson lands a few takedowns, which secures him very close round. I'm going to say Gibson win. Did you say he was the favorite or is he the underdog?
Gibson is minus 160, so mild to moderate favorite.
All right, so I thought I was taking an underdog, but all right, give me Gibson by decision.
You really touched the high points of what I wanted to point out about these two guys. One is that Gibson, despite especially a bantamweight having height and reach on just about everybody, tends to squander that advantage by just stepping right into the pocket and winging big shots with everybody he fights, which, yeah, it makes for fun fights, but it might be to his detriment. I have always been super, super low on Aori Qileng. And I mean, I still don't think he's great. I don't think at 32, he's suddenly going to turn a corner and become the bantamweight Charles Oliveira and rewrite his whole career or anything. But he's better than I gave him credit for. And it's actually the loss to Raul Rosas Jr. in his last fight that made me think, okay, this guy is better than I've been giving him credit for. Because one, by the time they got in the cage at Noche UFC, I think Raul Rosas Jr. was almost a 10-1 favorite, and he did not look like a 10-1 favorite in that fight. The interesting thing was that, especially early in the fight, Rosas got takedowns on Aori Qileng pretty easily, but he then struggled to really do much on top, especially as the fight wore along, and that's not normally a problem Rosas has. But Aori Qileng just he fought a smart fight. I thought for a guy that was badly overmatched, came out and fought in the way that gave him the best possible chance of having a competitive fight and maybe sneaking out a win. I mean, I don't think he had any chance of winning a close fight on the judges' scorecards at Noche UFC against Raul Rosas Jr., but he looked to me like a guy who at least is aware of what he does well, aware of what his vulnerabilities are, and like I say, just a well-coached guy that comes out and fights to his best advantage. Because of, like, that's the reason that I kind of lean towards him in this fight, because I have the feeling this is going to be an exciting fight, maybe to both guys' detriment. But if all the things that kind of in my mind might make the tiebreakers in wild competitive rounds kind of make me like lean towards Aori Qileng, he's a guy that's going to be more likely to shoot a well-timed reactive takedown in the middle of a phone booth brawl and either blunt what Gibson's doing or give himself the chance to do some offense. And basically, I hate the term steal around, but basically, yeah, like steal around by taking Gibson down and actually doing something with it. Also, what you mentioned, Gibson's willingness to brawl in close quarters and his tendency to kind of sell his opponent's offense like he's in a movie fight or a pro wrestling match does not do him favors in close rounds. Because of that, this fight feels like it should be more like a pick'em. And if it were a pick'em, I'd also be leaning towards Aori Qileng. So give me Aori Qileng here in the slight upset. It's one of those fights where I might not even agree with the decision when they read it off. I might be on the recap saying, I actually thought Gibson won the fight, but I'm glad I picked it right. This is me saying that to you right now. It's going to be a close fight. At least two of the rounds will be individually close. Aori Qileng, wins a close one, maybe a controversial one, maybe a splitter. But give me the slight upset here.
See, the one thing is we view the fight being really close, but we both disagree on who's going to get the takedowns. I think Gibson's going to be the one to get the takedowns. So we'll see.
I'm interested in that as well. Next up on the UFC Vancouver main card is a women's flyweight matchup between Manon Fiorot and Jasmine Jasudavicius. Fiorot, the 35-year-old French woman, is 12-2 overall. She's 7-1 in the UFC. She joined the UFC about 5 years ago, won her first 7 fights in a row over increasingly stern opposition, making her way to a shot at the title at UFC 315 in Montreal back in May. There, she came up short against Valentina Shevchenko. So she is looking to bounce back from her first UFC loss, and in fact, her first loss since her professional debut, and prove that she is still a factor in the title picture. In order to do so, she will need to get past Jasudavicius. 36-year-old Canadian, 14-3 overall, 8-2 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. Since her loss to Tracy Cortez just a little over 2 years ago, she has rattled off 5 straight wins, culminating in wins this year over Mayra Bueno Silva in February and Jessica Andrade in May at that same UFC 315 in Montreal. She throttled Andrade in half a round, kind of an eye-opening performance for a lot of observers, for me at least. And she's looking for her 6th win in a row here and perhaps her own shot at UFC Gold. She is not favored to get it, as Manon Fior is actually a comfortable favorite. She is minus 250, Jasudavicius plus 200 as your underdog. So I made the kind of joking reference to the bout order here with Aori Qileng versus Cody Gibson being on the main card. I'm going to have a actual serious rant here, because we sometimes complain about bout order, at least in kind of a joshing sense, but it does matter. And for what it's worth, when the UFC puts on a pay-per-view, bout order tends to be pretty obvious. Title fights go at the top, and usually it's the heaviest fighter defending a title and moves down, unless there's someone defending their title for like the 5th time, and then obviously the more dominant fighter ends up in the top spot.
Yeah, or like Conor McGregor or something like that. Yeah.
But on fight nights, it's a little more loosey-goosey, because by definition, they almost never have a title fight. For me, it's pretty simple. I think the headliner should be the fight whose winner is closest to a title shot. And for me, the fighter on this entire card who's closest to a title shot with a win is Jasmine Jasudavicius. Maybe even more so than Reinier de Ridder. You think it's de Ridder?
Yeah, it's de Ridder. Yeah, I'm gonna disagree on that one. De Ridder wins. He's got a good chance. The problem is there's like 3 guys have a strong argument in middleweight.
Which is
actually Fluffy with the injury probably put himself out, so it'd be de Ridder and Mavo. So like 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay. But I get your general point. They shouldn't be 4th down the card.
She's definitely closer than Marlon Vera and Aben Zahabi.
Yeah. and Holland and Malott for sure.
Yeah. I've come to some conclusions about Manon Fior, and I'll be interested to see whether you agree with any of them or you think I'm totally off my rocker. But I used to have the rant up until a year or 2 ago that, everything you think you know about Derek Lewis is wrong, and this is what he really is as a fighter. Manon Fior, it's an interesting thing, because for somebody who, has boxing experience, who has herself announced as a boxer, when she's introduced in the Octagon, she's a very solid technical boxer, but she's not Pernell Whitaker from a standpoint of like head movement and hand speed. She's just like a very crisp, fundamental MMA boxer. And for somebody who is a big flyweight and subjectively might be the most physically imposing woman in the division, she's just absolutely jacked, like chiseled, and not in a cartoonish way, but just like she looks like an Olympic athlete in something way. And if they didn't tell you what sport she was and just showed you a picture, you'd be like, is she a swimmer? Is she a wrestler? Is she she's got deltoids that a lot of the men's 125-pound division would love to have. For somebody who is built like that and is fundamentally as sound as she is as a striker, she's not one of the bigger hitters in the division. Like she has got some TKOs, but they have tended to be through accumulation of damage. She's just settled in as a very flyweight. We just, if she comes out and she's the better striker, she's not going to make any big mistakes. And she's also going to give her opponent very few chances to kind of pull the upset. Like Manon Fiorot as the favorite has been pretty airtight, and she has felt that way in the course of the fights. The reason I'm interested in this fight, and spoiler out of the way, I'm going with the upset here, is I have been underrating Jasmine Jasudavicius' striking, I think, since she's been in the UFC. For somebody who has a background in amateur wrestling and just from the time she was on the Contender Series has openly embraced, like, hey, I'm a wrestler. I think she's a surprisingly good striker. And then obviously she's a good wrestler, but she's not Josh Koscheck in terms of being able to go from 6 feet away to through your hips, you know, in the blink of an eye. She is a woman who kind of wrestles like Michael Chiesa does, where she isn't super fast. She's not a fast twitch freak, but she's strong as hell, like, and has long limbs and just has learned to use her reach and then good chaining of techniques, persistence, and physical strength to have a very, very solid takedown game. I am extremely confident that this fight will go all 3 rounds. Again, you know, neither woman is a huge finisher. Like, Fiorot will finish you if you keep running it into her fists. Jasudavicius will finish you if 2.5 rounds into the fight, she's been all over you and you're getting tired. It's kind of like John Fitch that way, where I'm going to take you down. If you get tired, if you stop resisting, I will choke you out. But otherwise, you know, it's just going to be a real straightforward wrestling performance. I get why Fiorot is the big favorite here. Like, her run has been far more hyped. She does have more highlights on the reel, but I think this is actually going to be a really evenly matched fight. I'm interested to see whether Jasudavicius can get Fiorot down, especially early in the fight. But even if she can't, I don't think she's necessarily going to be completely out of her depth. I envision a fight where Jasudavicius probably does lose the first round. I could see her just getting her head snapped back by the jab and the cross, maybe getting her legs kicked a few times. Fiorot is more effective when she remembers to kick more often. But I think Jasudavicius will probably start to get takedowns at some point in the fight. But even if she doesn't, I think she's going to be able to strike well enough to kind of hang in there with Fiorot. Give me Jasudavicius to pull off the upset here. I'm saying Jasudavicius wins the 3rd round. Fiorot wins the 1st round. 2nd round is going to be the swing round. I could see this being a splitter, but give me Jasmine Jasudavicius to win what I think is her 7th straight fight and very possibly lock herself in for a title shot.
Yeah, this is, I mean, this might not be the most action fight, you know, when we think, oh, I'm gonna be excited to see this fight, but what's on the line, but also who can dictate how the fight goes is really intriguing too. So this is actually one of the fights I'm really looking forward to. Manon Fiorot, I mean, she's a big flyweight. I was thinking about you. I think of that comparison, like she's built like an Olympic athlete. Like that's like perfect. Like I was thinking of like Lindsey Vonn. Like she's built like, you know, or you know, or you like say like a swimmer or something.
Yeah.
She's southpaw. She has really good footwork on the feet, constantly cutting angles, both offensively and defensively to avoid strikes. She's a technical striker, works from distance, got some quick hands, just kind of touches. When she steps into shots, she can crack. She's got a nice straight right. She loves her lead front hook. The kicks are the best part of her game. Her teep kicks. She can close the distance and use her size well in the clinch. She's improved, you know, her overall, what I consider like the overall grappling, whether it be the clinch or entries, much better than when she first came to UFC. Nice knees inside. I think she's an underrated offensive wrestler. She got some good entries. I mean, she got takedown against Qileng, which isn't an easy thing to do. she has shown to be hard to take down herself. I think she's a better grappler than people think. Not to Jasudavicius level, but that's not getting crazy. But if she does get a takedown, she got some good top control. Though she is not a submission threat. Jasudavicius is a woman that we both kind of backed for a while now. We like. She's really large for the weight class, long and lanky fighter, very physically strong. Wins many of our matches just by being the more physical fighter, getting the clinch, getting kind of grimy. She understands where she has her advantage and usually finds a way to expose it, expose her opponent. She's constantly marching down her opponent, good output on her feet. You mentioned, I think her striking has improved. A good variety in her striking, works behind a long jab. Due to her striking defense being poor, she still eats a lot of shots. That's because she stands up too tall. She will close the distance and use her strength well. I mean, this is the area she's, the most effective in. She'll wear down her opponent in the clinch with good dirty boxing, with knees inside. Her threat of wrestling opens up opportunities to land strikes from the feet. She will try to get to the fight to the ground. Usually she'll get like a body lock or trip takedown, but she can also shoot, pretty good reactionary double. If you open up too much on her, she can duck down and get to your hips. She's good at just kind of creating a scramble and usually winning the position. Very good on top. She smoked Miranda Maverick on the ground, which I think is really impressive. Mean ground and pound. And she recently got a few submission subs, including subbing Jessica Andrade in her last fight. So I think the line, I think this should be a pick'em fight. I'm with you. I flip-flopped on this one. I think Manon will be able to avoid some of the clinches of Jasudavicius and kind of, or at least neutralize her in there. And it's usually a spot that Jasudavicius has such an advantage where I don't know she'll have a big advantage there. I think Manon's advantage is still on the feet. While I do think Jasudavicius has improved, I think Manon has the power on the feet, still the more tactical one on the feet. I think she can stick and move. I think this fight's going to be close. I'm going the opposite way. I'm going to go Manon for all wins. A very close, I'll say very close decision.
Third from the top at UFC Fight Night 262 is a men's bantamweight matchup between Marlon Vera and Aiemann Zahabi. Vera, the 32-year-old Ecuadorian, is 23-10-1 overall. He is 15-9 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. The first he's had in the UFC in almost 8 years. He fought most recently a little over a year ago at UFC on ABC Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov, where he dropped a unanimous decision to Deiveson Figueiredo. Prior to that, he lost a unanimous decision in a title bout with then champ Sean O'Malley. I won't even go into the whole question of whether he should have been in that fight or not. The fight happened. It was not that competitive, but at any rate, he's lost 2 straight fights, looks to get back into the win column here against Zahabi. 37-year-old Canadian, 13-2 overall, 7-2 in the UFC. He is on a 6-fight winning streak since dropping a unanimous decision to Vince Morales back in 2019. He's already fought once this year. It was in Montreal at UFC 315, where he fought an overweight and soon to retire Jose Aldo and won a unanimous decision. Good night for Zahabi, deflating night for Aldo, but nonetheless, the man looking for his 7th straight win and ever so slightly favored to get it. He is -130, Vera +110. Like I said off the top, I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me 2 years ago that Aiemann Zahabi was going to be fighting third from the top on a card in Canada. What would have surprised me would have been that you can make an argument that he should be higher. Like, it was easy to write Zahabi off after getting absolutely iced by Ricardo Ramos.
That's a really long time ago.
It was a really long, it was a really long time ago, but the real reason to write him off was he was fighting once every 2 years at the time.
No, but I mean, to think he'd be this good all these years later is pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, again, if you'd asked me then, I would have been like, oh, he's gone back to being a TriStar gym rat. He never fought again. He did a few grappling competitions in Quebec, and he's just his brother Feroz's, second in command.
Yeah.
Instead, he's on a 6-fight win streak to the point that he's beating good dudes. I mean, He beat Javid Basharat. He beat
Jose
Aori
Aldo.
Qileng, who's not a bad fighter. He beat Jose Aldo. And yeah, again, that was a weird fight. Aldo came in heavy.
Sure.
He looked weirdly flat, but still, he's got that name on his resume, and not many people do.
Forever. Yep.
Yeah, forever. And here, he is favored to beat Marlon Vera, a guy that, regardless of what you think of his title shot, has been a perennial top 10 guy in this division for like 6 or 7 years now. Age ain't nothing but a number. I know that in terms of competitive physical wear and tear, I would much rather be 37-year-old Amin Zahabi that turns 38 in a couple weeks than 32-year-old Marlon Vera.
Yeah.
Marlon Vera.
It's like a quarterback versus a running back. The styles.
Oh, it's almost like a running back versus a kicker.
Yeah, one you're not allowed to touch, and the other one is just
when you're not allowed to touch, and he comes out 3 times a game.
yeah, and Vera's like scatterboo style, like head first.
Yeah, they're like lining him up in the slot. They're using him as like a weird H-back. He's getting just hit by linebackers. Yeah. Vera has already overachieved. On some level, he should never have made it to the point where a title shot was even remotely justifiable. And yeah, obviously he got the title shot because he already had that weird controversial fight with O'Malley earlier in their careers, but they wouldn't have been able to turn that into a title shot if he weren't a top 10 guy. Like, for a guy who is as relentlessly blood and guts as him, who manages to find ways for all of his opponents to hit him in the face 30 or 40 times, it's actually super impressive that he's 15-9 in the UFC and that he's beaten some of the people that he has. He remains offensively potent, but defensively kind of porous and reckless. He is always needed to wrestle more often because some of his best work, like he's a nasty ground and pound guy and he's good at finding submissions and just a lot of times doesn't give himself a chance to bring those weapons in because he doesn't think to bring things to the ground unless he's like hurt and in reactive mode. This might be a time to try that out because on the feet, I think Zahabi might actually be able to just kind of stick and move and touch Vera and make him look basic and make him look like he's just kind of over swinging and out of position. If Vera lets himself get drawn into an Amin Zahabi fight, I think there's a possibility that Zahabi just wins all 3 rounds in a pretty ho-hum straightforward fight that even if he doesn't hurt Vera, just kind of makes Vera look like he's slowing and on his way out. There's always a chance that Vera catches Zahabi with one of his massive haymakers or slices him with a head kick like he did Dominic Cruz. But all those things work better if he tries to take Zahabi down. I don't know whether he will or not. I'm leaning Zahabi here to win exactly the fight I described, where he probably wins 2 rounds out of 3, just keeping Vera on the outside, probably avoiding clinch exchanges to the extent that he can. And this thing stays on the feet the whole time. Give me Zahabi by decision. Not a ton of confidence in it, but I think that's probably the fight we get.
Yeah, this is an intriguing fight. I'm hoping it's a Marlon Vera style fight and not a Amin Zahabi fight. Marlon, I agree with you said. I mean, this guy already overachieved in his career. If you go back to, when for a long time, he was looked at as just like a card filler. To make it all the way to a title run, a title shot was pretty impressive. I doubt we ever see him in that situation again. He is a long and lanky guy. He's a southpaw. He's a bit of a builder. He's historically a slow starter, but by the 3rd round, his output is usually pretty good. The problem is it's been 4 fights in a row where his output has been really bad, and kind of crumbles his entire game if he doesn't have that. And go back to like the Sandhagen. I mean, Sandhagen is such a skilled bantamweight, so much more than, but his volume never increased in that fight. When we saw him kind of go on this run where he looked good, it was when he's marching down his opponents with pressure. He does struggle to cut off the chain, to cut off the cage. Just kind of chases. Doesn't have the best hand speed, but he hits hard though. I mean, he dropped Dominic Cruz 3 times in their fight. He's got a really big kicking game, nice calf kicks. He isn't the most defensively sound guy. He gets hit a lot. Sandhagen picked him apart on the feet. Sean O'Malley was landing at will in their second fight, the title fight. He can take a beating and usually never. Well, hold on. He can take a beating and he's never been stopped, so that's impressive. He isn't a great offensive wrestler, but occasionally he will get the fight to the ground. He's a bad defensive wrestler. He is a strong grappler, though. If he gets on top, he's got mean ground and pound, strong BJJ, got some slick back takes. He's got 8 submission wins on his career, so he's a submission threat. And he can even get subs off his back. Aim is a hobby. I mean, I thought, like I was with you, man. I thought he was shot, like years ago, and he has never looked better. He's a good striker. I do wish he had better output, though. But he's a good counter striker. Keeps everything tight, everything technical. His hands are pretty fast. He has got a nice jab. He follows it up with straight shots down the pike. I like his straight right. He showed off some power in his fight against Drake Rodriguez. He showed against Jose Aldo. He's got more dog in him than I originally thought. I thought he was gonna like stick move, but there was times where he was opening up and landing some shots. And when he got hurt by Aldo, he found a way to dig deep and come back on him. He is a very defensive minded person, very defensively sound. He circles away from attacks well, so he's like his first line of defense is his footwork. Big kicking game, nice calf kicks. He likes to close the distance and grind in the clinch. Looks for knees inside, elbows inside. He will drop down on the hips and look to get the fight to ground by just pulling the legs out. I think his lack of offense wrestling is keeping him from being an elite fighter. So like it's I should say lack of offense wrestling from distance. He does need to improve his takedown defense a little bit. But when you take him down, he is pretty hard to hold down. He doesn't stay on the bottom. If he's on top, I like his ground and pound, and he is also a pretty good grappler. He's a good submission threat. So, as far as prediction go, you didn't seem you picked Zahabi, but you didn't have a lot of confidence. We've disagreed a lot on this card. We're not going to disagree on the outcome. I am also picking Zahabi. I think we're picking how decisive it look. I like Zahabi pretty easily here. I think Vera has looked terrible lately. I think Zahabi has never looked better. I think. Hold on, let me rephrase that because I said I think Zahabi clearly wins. I don't think it's like a great showing. I think he's going to use footwork. He's going to do what he does. He's going to keep his distance. He's going to jab. He's going to move. Vera's going to keep kind of trying to march him down, but struggling, trying to keep him in the range he wants. And I think he just does it over and over 15 minutes. Like, it's not going to be the most exciting fight, but it's going to be a decisive fight. Give me Zahabi by decision.
That brings us to the co-main event of UFC Fight Night 262, a welterweight matchup between Kevin Holland and Mike Malott. Holland, the 32-year-old American, is 28-14 with 1 no contest overall. He is 16-11 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC out of Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. He has bounced back and forth between middleweight and welterweight. He is 6-4 at welterweight. And he's coming in off a loss, incidentally, at welterweight. He fought at UFC 318 back in July, coming up short in a 3-round decision against Daniel Rodriguez. Prior to that, he had rattled off 2 straight wins at 170 since losing to Reinier de Ritter. He beat Gunnar Nelson in March and then Vicente Luque in June before doing the quick turnaround and facing Rodriguez. So Holland still sticking around at 170, looking to get back in the win column here. He will need to get past the highest billed Canadian on the card in the form of Malott. 33-year-old from Halifax, Nova Scotia. 12-2-1 overall. 5-1 since joining the UFC out of Season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is on a 2-fight win streak since his deflating loss to Neil Magny in Canada back last January. He fought about a year ago at UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Albazi, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Trevin Giles. Then this May in Montreal, he knocked out Charlie Radke in the second round. So Malott looking to solidify his place as, well, maybe the most competitive Canadian in the UFC right now, unless I'm missing somebody, with a third straight win over a veteran fringe contender in Holland. The odds are close on this one, so I will quiz you, Keith. The favorite is -115. The underdog, even money, plus 100. Who are they?
I say Kevin Holland's the favorite.
It is actually Mike Malott. Driven into the minus money by people who apparently didn't see the Magny fight. Okay, the interesting thing about Kevin Holland is, well, one of the interesting things about Kevin Holland is he's not that far above 500 in the UFC. Like I said, he's 16-11 overall. He's 6-4 at welterweight, which mathematically is about the same. So on paper, he has roughly the same winning percentage at 185 as at 170. In fact, it's actually a little better at 170, I think. But having said that, he is a better fighter. Mathematically, the winning percentage is better at 185, but he is a better fighter at 170. He has losses in both divisions because he's Kevin Holland and he sometimes fights like a knucklehead. But when he loses at 185, it's just usually like, oh yeah, he just got completely manhandled and bullied by a bigger dude and he needs to stop fighting at 185. That's what it usually looks like when Holland loses at middleweight. Where at 170, he has actual physical advantages over most people he fights, and it's really up to him whether he looks like a world beater or just has a weird and lame performance. I hate picking Kevin Holland fights. I really do. Like, he's, for a guy with as many fights as him, and he's coming up on 30 fights in the UFC. I think this is his 29th or his 30th fight in the UFC. So much of it is still down to whether he has a game plan and whether he decides to stick with it. Like, him picking up probably the best highlight of his career while being a complete goofball and like talking to Jacare while punching him off the seat of his pants. The fact that that worked out for him may have been the worst thing that ever happened to Kevin Holland as a professional fighter. Because one, it encouraged him to keep fighting at 185. Like, well, if I could knock out Jacare sitting on my butt, I don't need to be afraid of anybody up there. And two, it encouraged him to keep fighting like a goofball. I don't know if he'd be a champ or a perennial contender if he just actually fought to his best advantage every time, but I know we've never seen it. I'm talking about all these intangibles because we've given the scouting report on his skill set and physical tools literally 18 times together in the last 4.5 years. Like, we know exactly what he looks like, you know, what his skills are. And it would be completely possible and unsurprising for Holland to come out and just make Malott look slow and clumsy on the feet and bust him up with jabs and kicks until Malott gets frustrated, shoots right into a Darce choke, and Holland moves back into the all-time lead in the UFC for Darce chokes. That's possibility number one. Possibility number two is that Holland like dances around on the outside, talks to Malott's corner, talks to Dana White, and walks right into haymakers and double leg takedowns and gets himself clubbed and subbed in the second round. Like, if I had a time machine, I'd go forward and tell you which of those things happens. I don't know which one we get. My guess is that we're going to get something closer to the good Holland than the bad Holland, because as inconsistent as Holland's mental approach sometimes is, the weight division he's competing in is actually a tangible look into the intangibles. When he is, because he actually does have to do some hard work and cutting weight to make 170. And because of that, I think he comes in with a little bit more of a serious mindset when he's fighting at 170 than at 185. 185, it's often him stepping up on short notice, playing with house money, knowing he's doing the UFC a solid, whether he wins or loses. He's flat out said he wants to be Donald Cerrone, where I want to fight 5 times a year. And as long as I win 3 of them, I know I've got a job and a couple bonuses. He can do that at 185 in a way he can't really at 170. So the fact that this fight is at 170, plus the Kevin Holland contrarian thing where you know he would love to just really, really piss off the crowd by dusting, again, the highest billed Canadian on the card, I think we get something closer to the better Kevin Holland than the worse one. I'm taking Holland by decision here. I'm going to say he commits to fighting an outfight and then switching to all the way in if Malott really forces the issue, and working with some of his nasty, like, in close weapons that he has as well. If he does that, there is a chance that he kind of rings up Malott and finishes him when he's hurt, tired, discouraged, late, kind of like Magny did. I'm not picking that, but I am picking him to win the decision, and in perfectly infuriating Kevin Holland fashion to make it look easy. And then he'll just go and absolutely shit the bed the next time out because he's Kevin Holland.
All right. Probably should have said this from the very start, being that this is the last Canadian fighting on the card. But as we tape this, it won't be up in time. So when you're listening to this the next day, but happy Thanksgiving to any Canadians out there. Today is the official Canadian Thanksgiving. I apologize for getting this far on the card. Not like I'm married to a Canadian who actually just drove back from Canada, and my wife and kids were up there for this weekend. I didn't get to go. But
we are intersectional and multicultural. Like I wished all of our Jewish listeners a happy New Year a couple of weeks ago on behalf of my wife. Happy Thanksgiving on behalf of the lovely and extremely patient and long suffering Mrs. Qileng. That's how we rock here.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to all my in-laws and all that, and all our Canadian listeners. Ben, Canadian trivia. What is the Canadian national animal?
Please let it be the beaver.
It is.
I don't know what
it is. Nice job. I thought moose would be the obvious pick, but it is the beaver.
But
Good job.
Beaver makes for much better jokes. I'm so happy that that's what it actually is.
Canadian beaver. All right. Yeah. Insert jokes below. Yeah. How about I'll give you another Canadian. Let's see how many in a row you can get. What is the biggest province by land size?
Northwest Territory.
No, it's Quebec. It is Quebec.
Really?
How many Canadian provinces have you been to?
I've been to Ontario, and I've been to British Columbia, and I think that's actually it. Just the two corners. Yeah, I've been up to Vancouver, and then I've been up to like Niagara, by way of like Buffalo and stuff. That's it.
Yeah. Never been to Montreal, huh?
I never have.
Oh wow. Montreal's nice. It's a nice city. I like Toronto too, but Montreal's a cool city. So man, if you are a world traveler and we finally found a country that I have been to more. Well, I know I've been there more times than you for sure. Total times I definitely have Canada beat. I've probably been there, 40 times or something. But yes,
I'm a world traveler, but I don't like the cold that much.
Yeah. I just don't want to go to Canada. I've been mostly just the east side. I've been to Ontario. I've been to Quebec. Obviously, I've been to New Brunswick, where my wife is from most. I've been to Nova Scotia. I've been to PEI. So that's like 5 of them I've been to. But anyways, I'm just talking about this because I'm not talking about Kevin Holland anymore. Just not doing it. So I'll save some time there on the skills of Kevin Holland. Mike Malott, on the other hand, solid athlete. He moves really well. He's got some nice footwork. He uses his movement to handle pressure. He did that really well against Charles Radke. His output isn't the best, though. He also doesn't have the best hand speed for a guy that is, an upper echelon guy for the division, or someone that they believe is an upper echelon guy for the division.
Upper echelon guy and a former featherweight. It is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. He works behind a good jab. He doubles it up a lot. He has some pop in his hands. He showed power against Charles Radke, but he overthrows his punches at time, which leads him to be countered. Good kicking in though. I like his calf kicks. He moves his feet well, but he needs to move his head better. He has been hurt a lot and hurt by lesser fighters. He can wrestle though. Got some good entries. Got some good grappling. He's got 5 submission wins. He's got a great guillotine. Doesn't have the best get-up game if you put him down. So as far as prediction goes, we got a consensus upset pick. I'm going with Holland here. I think he's better than Manon probably everywhere other than maybe offensive wrestling. But I think he's the overall better grappler. I think he lands the hardest shots from distance. I think we get some scrambles. The way to out grapple Holland is to take him down, be bigger, and hold him down. It is not to get in a scramble. He's pretty good in the scrambles. I think he catches him a lot. I want to say he does in the second round. You said he might. You mentioned a Darce choke. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to go Darce choke. I'm going to say Holland by second round sub. I don't think Holland should be the underdog. I think he should be a lock. I'm locking an underdog as my lock of the night. I can't believe I'm the most inconsistent person, the least person you could possibly trust, Kevin Holland. But I'm giving my lock of the night. Give me Kevin Holland.
With that, we come to the main event of UFC Fight Night 262, a middleweight contenders matchup between Reinier de Ridder and late notice opponent Brendan Allen, who steps in for Anthony Hernandez. De Ridder, the 35-year-old Dutchman, is 21-2 overall. He is 4-0 since joining the UFC as the former 2-division champ in one championship. He was their light heavyweight as well as middleweight champ, which in one means 205 and 225 pounds. He joined the UFC just one fight removed from his one championship tenure, and immediately slotted in to the UFC's 185-pound middleweight division and started wrecking people, if we're being honest. Emphatic finishes over Gerald Meerschaert, Kevin Holland, Bo Nickel, before running into Robert Whittaker in the headliner of UFC on ABC 9 in July, where he held on for a 5-round split decision, and this marquee booking. He was scheduled to take on Anthony Hernandez in a fight that almost certainly would have catapulted the winner into at least the doorstep of a title shot. Hernandez was forced to withdraw. In steps Brendan Allen, and as consolation prizes go, that is not a bad one. The 29-year-old Louisianan by way of Wisconsin is 25-7 overall. He's 12-4 since joining the UFC out of the 3rd season of Dana White's Contender Series and as the former LFA middleweight champ. In his most recent outing at UFC 318 in July, he won a unanimous decision over Marvin Vettori that snapped a 2-fight losing streak for him against Nasruddin Imavov and Anthony Hernandez. Odds here, perhaps unsurprisingly, favor De Ridder as the fighter on the winning streak who has had this fight circled on his calendar for months. He is minus 200. Allen is plus 170 as your underdog. Obviously, Keith, you didn't go deep into tape study for this since Allen has been on this card for a while now, but gut choice, whom would you have favored between Hernandez and De Ridder?
I don't favor. I like both those guys. De Ridder has really grown on me, but I don't favor anybody over Hernandez right now. I'm all in on Hernandez. But we were all in on Hernandez before it was cool to be all in on Hernandez, but he wasn't even ranked.
Yeah. So everybody that is going into the comment section right now to give a shit over Bo Nickel, just because, like we've said his name a couple times, remember the good as well as the bad. And for what it's worth, Nickel isn't done yet.
Yeah. What do you mean we? I never hear someone talking shit to Ben when Bo Nickel loses. I appreciate it, though. I appreciate the moral support.
Hey. Well, if I disagreed with you about him, I would have said something about it. It's not like we don't talk about this sport for 6 hours a week to each other. I would have been like, dude, tap the brakes. Who you got in this one? And how do you think it plays out?
Yeah, fair warning. When Gable Season gets signed by the UFC, you ain't seen shit yet. My Bo Nickel love weight. Even though the guy somehow he blocked me on Twitter. I think it was like a restraining order that said it or something. How much I love that guy. Dorita, he's really impressed me so far in the UFC. He has this very awkward, unconventional style, a little bit of like a Duplessis, not in the same output, but one of those ones where you watch him fight, you're like, yeah, it can't really work, and then he does. He has a great fight IQ. He constantly puts himself in the best position to win. He's a huge middleweight. I mean, I know we keep bringing him up, but like you saw him against Bo Nickel. I mean, he made Bo look like a flyweight. That's how big he is. He isn't a great athlete. His striking isn't the most dangerous, but somehow it is effective. I do think his striking is improving too. His hand speed is kind of slow. He throws a very simple 1-2 combination. Not really known for his power. I do like his kicks though. He loves teep kicks, which really fits his frame. He loves a lot of kicks because he isn't worried about being taken down. Like, go ahead, take him down. That's where he wants to go anyways. He will close the distance and grind and clinches. It's like a safe zone for him. He'll grind in the clinch and work in it, and he'll drop down to a hip or down to the legs and try to pull you out. But also, he wants to find a way to get the fight to the ground. He's a better wrestler than I originally gave him credit for. He finds many ways to get to fight the ground. He still isn't a great traditional wrestler, but he's, shooting through your hips. He's not going to blast you. Like you said, you mentioned Josh Koscheck earlier. That's not really his thing. But he is relentless to get to the fight to the ground. His wrestling was on point against Kevin Holland. That was pretty impressive. Just grappling against Holland was impressive. He's a very good grappler, great top control. He stays glued to his opponents. He controls so well, just doing the little stuff, grabbing, posts, hooking the ankles, just the small stuff that keeps opponents down. Slick back takes, constantly working for submission. He's got 14 subs on his record. I was not his best win in the UFC by far, but subbing Jared Mersha is a pretty impressive feat. He will struggle sometimes. If you put him on his back, he'll kind of play off his back instead of get back to his feet. Brendan Allen, he's been really inconsistent. So I don't really have a good read on him. Good Brendan Allen, he's a high output striker. He's a builder. They get stronger as the fight goes on. He's a Muay Thai striker. The problem is, you talked about Marlon Oliveira taking a lot of damage. Brendan Allen takes a lot of damage. He's super young, but he's got miles on those tires. He stands tall, takes a lot of damage that way. He eats shots and continues to march forward, but he's, like I said, he's been in so many wars that you have to worry about his chin. He has a good straight right, though he can overextend on his shot sometimes. He has some power. Some good step in elbows, which I like. He also does those step in knees, throws a lot of kicks, targets all areas of the body, great calf kicks. He will look to wrestle. I'm not really a fan of his entry. Sometimes he'll just shoot with his head straight down. Not your traditional explosive wrestler, but kind of one of these guys that just shoots and kind of keeps a scramble going and tries winning that position. So like more of like a very Ben Askren style funk wrestler. He is a strong grappler. If he gets the fight to the ground, he's on top. He's a bad defensive wrestler though. If he's on top, he'll control for long periods of time. I like his BJJ. He constantly moves to a better position on the ground. Good back takes. Though going back to like Imavov, if you put him on the bottom, he struggles. He really struggled against Imavov on the bottom. So as far as prediction go, if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have been all over Brendan Allen, but that's not the case anymore. I like Dorita here. I was, even though I said 2 years ago I would have been all over Allen, I've never been that sold on Allen. Adding the fact that RDR will be the bigger guy, which usually nobody is against Allen. I expect Dorita to win the clinch, to use his wrestling, win the overall grappling exchanges. I think Dorita will get Allen down and dominate. I think he will slowly beat up Allen from the tops. I think Allen's just going to slow down, do the big weight cut and a shorter camp. I think he makes a mistake, and I think Dober's going to get another impressive win. It won't be the biggest name, obviously. Whitaker will be the biggest name, and it doesn't seem like a step up for him. I feel like he has more to lose than gain in this fight, but I think he's going to put a performance. I think he's going to steal the title shot from Imavov. Give me Dober to catch a sub. I'll say late in the third, Dober by third round submission.
I love the breakdown there. I do have to get something off my chest real quick. It's something I could have said at any point during the show, probably should have said during the intro. But so in preparing for the show, throwing together my basic notes, I'm putting down just my title. Okay, UFC Fight Night 262, DeRitter versus Allen. It's UFC Vancouver. It's at Rogers Arena. And I go, wait a minute. Wasn't the Edmonton card a year ago at Rogers? No, that was Rogers Place. Okay, so there's a Rogers Arena in Vancouver and there's a Rogers Place in Edmonton. But wait a minute, isn't the venue in Toronto also Rogers Center? No. Okay, no, Rogers Center is their baseball stadium, and then the basketball, it's like Scotiabank. Like, why do that to me? And okay, yeah, I know Rogers is a big deal in Canada. It's like the big telecom company, but that would be like if
Rogers doing pretty well for themselves.
Yeah. Right.
They're almost as big as the Shill and the Duffy show.
Exactly.
We should get Rogers to sponsor the show.
Yeah. It would be like if
they sponsor everything else. Why can't they sponsor us?
It would be like if the Knicks, the Lakers, and also like the Houston Astros all played in places called AT&T something.
Yeah, Gillette Stadium. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, come on, Rogers. That's not very Canadian of you to be so greedy. I agree with your take on Allen, and you're probably tired of it. And anyone who's been listening to our show for, more than a year or two is probably tired of my comparison. But I still think of Brendan Allen as sort of this generation's version of Luke Rockhold. And I say that because they're in the same division, but you could also compare him to someone
he's saying creepy things to girls somewhere.
Well, I assume that of 80% of professional mixed martial artists, but
80% of guys.
Yeah. But including at least 50% of this show on most nights. But I could also compare him to Aljamain Sterling, somebody where, especially early in the career, wasn't as good a striker as you'd think. The kicks came along long before the hands really caught up, always had some defensive liabilities, and then more of a funk style get scrambles going wrestler than just an overpowering, bully you over and set up in top position type guy. He still has that in terms of kind of his frame, his offensive tools, but you pointed it out. Maybe it's a Louisiana thing, but it's like the body and basic skills of Luke Rockhold with a little injection of Dustin Poirier's approach, because he gets walloped a lot and has had a lot of damage pile up. And it's different from Rockhold in that case because Rockhold was always chinny, so he tended to get hit squarely and then go down. Whereas it takes a lot of beating to get Brendan Allen out of there, but plenty of people have done it already. He's already kind of achieved more in the UFC than I thought he would. I thought he's an offensively potent guy that just has too many defensive liabilities, and there are too many bad matchups for him in, the UFC middleweight top 15 at the time he got into the promotion. For him to even kind of be remotely in the title picture, he's already proven me wrong. So, take that for what it's worth. But this is a rough stylistic matchup for him, even if they were to meet on full camps. As you pointed out, DeRitter is bigger and his striking is weird but effective. I like how you called it awkward, because that's the perfect description. It's like, wait, you're a 6'4" Dutch guy and this is what your striking looks like? But it's not the same as Drew Dober, where it's like, how can you be a jacked 5'8" guy from Nebraska with cauliflower ear and your wrestling is this bad? Because it's not like DeRitter's striking is terrible. It's just odd. But he's going to be bigger than Allen. His striking is effective, and the wrinkle he showed against Nickel, where he just finally just started chain gunning knees from the clinch and just wrecked our boy. I could see him doing that to Allen, especially if Allen tries to get takedowns from the clinch, or he just starts getting rung up on the feet and tries to stem the bleeding by grabbing the clinch. I think that instinct will not serve him well here if it comes to that. And then, yeah, Allen is a very effective grappler. He's opportunistic. He's positionally aware. He works well in scrambles and in transition because he usually has longer arms and legs than people, and he's great at taking the back or finding ways to kind of wrap up a front headlock from odd angles. But depending on that against Jourdain, who can do all that as well, but is also physically stronger and probably more positionally sound, it sounds like an uphill battle. Like, I think it's unlikely that Allen will get clean takedowns against Jourdain, but if he does, I think Jourdain is still dangerous there. Where if Jourdain gets clean takedowns against Allen, I think we're in for a world of hurt. Jourdain has underratedly nasty ground and pound, and while he, again, is a guy that's very comfortable in transition, he also just did a top position bully job on Gerald Meerschaert. Just sat on his chest, elbowed him a few times, and arm triangled him. So yeah, I would favor Jourdain even if they were meeting on full camps for each other, but just more so here, considering that Allen's durability certainly won't be helped by the short camp and weight cut and might be hurt by it. I see, yeah, all of Allen's routes to victory would involve him. They will all involve either Jourdain making a mistake, which he's not really made many of in the UFC, or Allen just landing something crazy in low percentage that you can never really plan for. Give me Jourdain by second round submission here. I'm going to say it's kind of a straightforward thing where maybe he's piecing Allen up on the feet, they clinch, he knees or elbows Allen, goes down, and yeah, we get some ground and pound and a choke of some kind. But Jourdain, I think, gets it done in pretty dominant fashion. A highlight for the reel, says a few sassy things on the mic, and maybe he does jump that line at 185, and there will be two people at home throwing something tasteful against the wall. Those people would be Nasruddin Imavov and Anthony Hernandez. And that is it. The Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 262, Jourdain versus Allen, also known as UFC Vancouver. I have been Ben, he has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our shows, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional asides that we think is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. Neither of those things cost you anything. They make our bosses happy. They allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Please drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We'd love to hear your take on these fights. We picked a couple of unanimous upsets. Our batting average is pretty good on those. But if you think we left any value on the table, let us know. Also, we disagreed on like 4 fights tonight. We're asking you to pick sides and let us know which of us is right and which of us is wrong. No, we're not really doing that. But yeah, like, let us know, because if you pick these fights right and we pick them wrong, we will give you your flowers. Just come join us on the recap and collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith takes the captain's chair. We'll talk about all 13 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner on down to the opener, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something, hopefully not as bad as UFC Rio last week. And we'll be talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we are taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.